Welcome, everyone. We are live. And listen, it is Wednesday. The week is steady chugging along, yes? But I was talking to my mama uh, last night, and it's interesting how we are worrying, but we don't know that we are. Yeah, we see, but we don't. Put another way, we see, but we don't recognize what we are doing. So here's the practice to help you always see what you are doing. And the reason why we don't see it, right? The reason why we don't recognize it is because we've been doing it for so long. We've been doing it for so long that it is old hat. It is old news to us now. And so because we don't see it, we don't think it's there. So, like my grandmother, my dad's mom, she was a worrywart, always worried about things. And me, because I lived with her, I just picked up that habit because that's how children learn. So I saw what she did without understanding what she did, and then I just started doing it. And I worried and I fret, just like she did. But you see, we don't see what we're doing. It's like when someone comes in and I ask them, well, do you sigh a lot? You sigh a lot? And they're like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, pay attention for the next couple of days. And wouldn't you know it? A lot of people, some would say, well, didn't you give them that suggestion? No, I'm just making them aware of what they're doing. Why is it important to become aware of what you are doing? It is important to become aware of what you are doing so you can see where you would like to make a change. It's as simple as that. There's no judgment to what you do or who you are. We accumulated a lot of things from living, a lot of beliefs, a lot of feelings, a lot of thoughts about living, opinions about life and living itself. We picked those up like, shiny pebbles from the beach. We pick them up. But sometimes it is helpful to stop and look at your collection, is it not? To see which ones are truly beautiful. And this is why a lot of people like those antique roadshows. It looks like trash. But then they go and they have it appraised, and you're like, what? Wait, what do you mean this is worth so much? What? It was just, it's ugly. It's like, ew. And the appraiser says, no. Do you not see what makes it valuable? We have something for so long. We become accustomed to it. We become used to it that we no longer see it. Thus, we no longer give it value. And that is what we do sometimes with our own existence. We take it for granted. When in actuality, you don't take anything about yourself for granted, which means you've got to see it all day, every day. You take stock. So when someone says, examine your life, it doesn't mean, oh my God, I don't want to see my problems. Change your perspective. If you do not see the unsavory, the undesirable, how would you then know what is desirable? You've got to be able to look at yourself. There is no shame in examining the self, none whatsoever. Well, how do you examine the self? Because, we talk about it all the time. But how do you examine the self? You look at your behaviors. Look at your behaviors. Because the external behavior is showing you the corresponding internal mood. The external behavior is showing you the internal corresponding mood. So mood and behavior will always match. So if you're looking at the behavior, because sometimes it's hard or a little bit challenging to see the mood. But if you look at the behavior, how do you behave in certain situations? Right? Just simple question. How do you behave in certain situations? And when you recognize how you behave, you ask yourself, well, do I want to keep behaving like that? What would be a better way of behaving? In order for you to see the better way of behaving, you must first acknowledge what you're doing. And when you see it, now you can change your perspective to see a different behavior. But in order for you to grasp that different behavior and do it, you must first see it in the mind's eye. So you can say, oh, you know what? I want to stop and breathe, like deliberately. I just want to slow down and stop and breathe. So every time, before I get out of my car, before I get into my car, before I get out of my bed, I just want to breathe and focus on the good things. Because I tend to focus on the not so good things. That is something as simple you can tell yourself. And the moment you acknowledge what you want to do, just like that, your brain, literally speaking, your brain, every time, because you said, you know what, before I get out of bed, I want to do this. Your brain will kind of nudge you before you get out of bed to say, did you do it? Remember you said you wanted to do this? And you've got two options. You can ignore it or you can follow through. But you are the one who said, I want to do this. Your brain holds you accountable because it heard you. So you see, at every turn, we are assisted in our change. At every single turn, we are assisted in our change, good, bad, or indifferent. We are always assisted. We're never alone. Ever. So when you say, I want to become this, your brain starts to look for things to confirm that that's what you said you wanted to be. And the more that you acknowledge and follow through, remember what you're doing. As within, so without. Within the brain, I told you last night, we're setting down a neurological pathway within the brain. And so the body will follow that neurological pathway in the brain and act it out. As within, so without. It's not woo-woo. It's not magic. It's no fairy tale. It is cold, hard evidence that what is going on within, you will see it on the outside. Day in and day out, you can't escape it. But would you want to? Because that's where the power is it not? So today, whatever it is you may be facing, listen, there's 8 billion people on the planet, right? And now, allegedly, that's too much for the planet to bear. Allegedly. As if the earth doesn't know what she's doing. But you know what? I'm going to just leave that alone for another day. But you see, each one of us has a perspective. Every single one of us. 8 billion people. But when you say, here's my situation, there's but one solution to all 8 billion problems. Just one. Doesn't that make life easy for you? Think about it. You could have many different things happening in your world, but all those different things originated from one place, and they can be resolved from that same place. If you see it, if you acknowledge it. Every single problem you think you have or that you can encounter has but one single solution. Your perspective of the problem. People say there's more than one way to skin a cat. But I'm telling you here and now, sorry. Um, it is one way, one solution. That is to know what you want to become. There is no other solution than that. Know what you want to become. And when you see it in your mind's eye, to acknowledge it and say, I, I am that. Oh, I am indeed. You say that. You know how people say, I think it's Esther Hicks. I think it was, I'm not 100% sure. That when you make a decision, the whole universe conspires with you to bring it about. Do you think that that is just something fancy to say? No. It is within. When you make that internal decision, that internal determination, when you say, I am that, and you believe it, 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 right? You are literally speaking, setting down a neurological pathway in your brain. You learned to read. What do you think that is? A neurological pathway that you set down with the memory. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We know what those letters are because we set down the neurological pathway in the brain. So now, because those neurological pathways exist in your brain, what do you know how to do on the outside? Read. Mathematics, same thing. Trigonometry, same thing. Biology, chemistry, physics, same thing. You learned. To learn is to set down a neurological pathway in the brain, a wrinkle in the brain. Dare to say it. That's what you've done. And because you've done that, you can only do that. Because you've learned it and set down that pathway in the brain, you can only do that thing in that way. As within, so without. As a man is, so shall he be. Right? So now, for you to do something different internally, you've got to decide what neurological pathway you will have. So when you say, I want to become, your brain just perked up and said, I got space over here. Show me what you want to become. Show me what you're working with, right? So that's what your brain says. As soon as you make a decision, if you say, I want to break free, of what? It doesn't matter what it is. Show yourself by that mental image. Oh, well, Angela, I don't know how to visualize. We all know how to visualize. Problem is, you're trying to visualize like George. Well, you're not George, so you will never visualize like George. Therefore, you feel like you cannot visualize. So when you say, I want to become this, the moment you make that determination within yourself and your brain says, tell me more, I'm listening. I'm ready to carve this out and shape it for you. That's what your brain is saying. And how does it carve it out? By you recognizing what being that thing behaves like. How does a kind person behave? How does a wealthy person behave? And as you begin to see it in your mind's eye, it makes you feel. And it is the feeling, oh my God, you left such an impression on me. That means they made you feel such a thing that you can't forget it. They instantaneously set down a neurological pathway in your brain for you just by your observation of them. So you see, I keep telling you, we can have 8 billion problems, but they all got there by the same way, and they will all change by the same way. which is to leave the impression. Leave an impression. And how do we leave an impression? We leave an impression either instantaneously or by repetition. Instantaneously, yes. You ever walk in a space and you look at somebody and you go, well, damn. And you can't get them out of your head. They left an impression on you. You heard somebody sing and you go, ooh. And it left an impression in your brain. And now every time you hear that song, they pop up in your head. So you see, everybody knows how to visualize. If now, per se, you smelt roses and they just moved you so much and they left an impression on you that it didn't matter where you go, you got a whiff of a rose. You only smelt it, but the image was there in your mind. You know what it is. So you see, you've got five senses. One of them is stronger than the others. And that is the sense that you use to help you bring an image to mind, visualize. So the reason a problem persists is because of what has been set down in the neurological pathway. A habit, a groove, if you will. That's what it is. The wrinkle in the brain is a groove in the brain. And what happens in a groove? We move in the groove, in the pocket. But that's exactly what we do. So in order to change the groove you are presently in, you must acknowledge it as being unsatisfactory, but then you have to determine what the new groove is. But in order to set down the new groove, you must persist in that new feeling, in that new, this is who I am. Over and over and over and over and over until the new groove is so set down. It's old news to you. You can do it with your eyes closed. You know it like the back of your hand. Is that not what you're presently doing right now? Indeed, you are. It is the only thing we can do because that is the way, that is the principle of existence. It happens in this way. So then to change, apply the same thing, but deliberately. Because a lot of the things we just learned them vicariously. We learned them through observation, and thus we thought that that's what we were. You see, when I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. But here we are still walking with childish things because we didn't know that that's what we were doing. But now that you know, the same way you did it as a child, you take in the information, you take in the information. But here's the grown-up part of you, discernment. You take it in. Is this good enough for me? Is this what I want to be? Does this contradict or does this confirm? That is the adult side. And the thing that confirms who you say you want to be, you continually see it in your mind. But what do you mean, see it in my mind, Angela? Have you ever sat down and remembered? Have you ever sat down and reminisced? Well, what do you think you're doing? Calling up a memory and playing it over and over again. So to call up a memory and play it over and over again, you are laying down that neurological pathway. So now what do you need to do? Create a new memory. Well, yes, create the new memory. How? By rehearsing in imagination what you would be doing in reality. That's all you're doing day in and day out. So every time you say, oh my God, this is so hard. I can't do this. I've been this way for 30 years. The more we do that, we are in that neurological pathway. And you know, when you start to do something new, it feels funny, right? It feels weird. It feels awkward, right? only because the neurological pathway has not yet been set down. But we tend to give up because of the unnatural feeling of it. But what makes something become natural? What was that? You mean the frequency? Yes, frequency meaning how often do you do it? Because it is how often you do a thing that makes it natural. So, how often in the day are you saying, thank you? How often are you saying thank you? Don't just say thank you idly. If you say, well, I have nothing in my life to say thank you for, let me tell you what I say thank you for. I say thank you that I know the principles and that I can apply them. That's what I say thank you for. Because if I did not know them, I'd be walking through this life talking about, oh my God, my life sucks. I'm being for real. I would be walking through life saying that. Because for all intents and purposes, it was not an easy life. It was not an easy beginning. But I know better now. And that is what I give thanks for, that I learned something new so that I can do and be somebody new. That is what I give thanks for. You never have to force thanks, ever. You ever made it home just in time to go to the party and you say, whew, thank you that I didn't go in the car. Shoot, what a mess that would have been to clean up. Of course, unless it is explosive diarrhea, then there's no help for anybody. You just got to let it happen. Sorry. But you get what I'm saying to you? If you practice saying thank you, heartfelt, meaning you actually mean your thanks, you are setting down a neurological pathway in your brain that will always point you in the direction of things and situations and experiences that are thankful, that are beautiful, as within, so without. The same way when we complain, we are led towards things to complain about. Do you think that is a coincidence? Oh, but you remember what a coincidence is, don't you? The coincidence is the external experience that corresponds or that coincides with your internal mood, your internal thought. That's why you said it was a coincidence, because, oh my God, I was just thinking about you and now you are calling me. Your external phone call mirrored who you were thinking about. It coincided. So you see now, it is just that we don't understand what a coincidence is. So, my beautiful friends, before I welcome you, let me remind you of this. What do you want to become? I will tell it to you till you start doing it. You're going to be so sick of it, you will either turn me off and go, she crazy. But in the back of your mind, you will want to know, can I prove her wrong? By trying to prove me wrong, you will only prove yourself correct. Which means you will do what? Prove the principles and their very existence. So what do you want to become? See it in your mind's eye. And when you begin to see it in your mind's eye, it's going to make you feel a particular way. And as you feel a particular way, what made you feel that way? What made you feel that way? Something you said? Because what we do, we're going to now rehearse in imagination what we would do in reality. So if that means you would hug somebody that you haven't seen in a long time, if that means you would antagonize somebody because, they just get under your skin, whatever that is that you would do, rehearse it in your mind's eye over and over and over, because you're not being idle. You're setting down a neurological pathway. And the more you play in that groove, the deeper that groove gets, meaning the more natural it becomes to you. That is why the more you feel it, the deeper it gets. The deeper the groove gets, the more you feel it. So that's why Neville Goddard says to persist in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. What is the wish fulfilled? You saying, I am that. So that's step 1, 2, and 3. So now you know the back end of what you're doing. You know the back end now, so that it demystifies the thing you say you want to be. It removes the far-fetchedness from it. It is not far-fetched. You've been doing it all along. So who's spending time with us this morning? Well, you know, Twitter is as Twitter is. There's 5 people here on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. I just don't know which one because they have not told me who they are in the chat. Either way, I still see you. Hey, who's here with us on Fanbase? Oh, let me scroll. Oh Lord, it's a party on Fanbase this morning. Tafari, hello, welcome to the space. Oh, Big Mike is in the house. Oh, Miss Deborah, hello. Ray. Oh, well, if it isn't the lovely Commander. I gotta pause when I say your name, Commander. You command excellence from me every day. It is good to see you. And Miss McQueen, my Scotch bonnet, I see you. Honey is in the house. Oh, my girl Thick is in the house. Listen, it is so good to see all of you this morning. It really is. But more importantly, don't just hear what I'm saying, because it may feel like I'm entertaining you, but be ye doers of the word. What word you say, Angela? I am that. That word. Be ye doers. Practice. Practice. I know what I want to become. And I can see it in my mind's eye, and it makes me feel so good. It makes me feel so good that I'm going to revel in this good feeling, because in this good feeling, I am setting down a neurological pathway. I am making an impression upon my brain. And as that impression is made, I can only walk in that impression because I know what I'm doing. That's what you do. That's how you practice all day, every day. Why? Because Psalm 91 says, he that dwelleth in the, what does it say, Miss Deborah? He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide in the shadow of the Almighty. Oh, do you know what it means to abide in the shadow? If you are in the shadow, well, then you are protected by the thing that is bigger than you. Marianne Williams said it, somebody bigger than you and I. But what's that? I am is bigger, greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. The imagination, the awareness of yourself is bigger than the things you become aware of. So now you see the shadow that you're in? It's not a bad shadow, because it is the greatness within you that casts the shadow. And I just want you to remember that this morning. Every single change that you want to make in your life, it is possible. All things are possible to them that do what now? Believe. But we only believe that which we know. So what do you know? Well, as within, so without. You know that. So then get on the inside. Become on the inside what you want to portray on the outside. And the only way to become it is mentally, because the universe is a mental creation. Become it mentally. Well, how mentally? Well, when something is mental, right? It is something on the inside that nobody sees. It is a way you speak to yourself. That is a mental conversation. It is mental. You're having that internal conversation. So when you have an internal conversation, it'll make you feel, which leaves an impression. That is mental. The attitude is mental. Nobody sees your attitude until you act. So you see, the invisible, the mental must always become visible. So when you ask, well, what does mental mean? It is your attitude, your mood. That is mental. So get that the way you want it to be. Get the mental, and the physical will take shape, because you are calling those things that are not as though they were, and they become. Oh, you thought you were a wizard? Oh, save me, Lord. You were far greater. You ain't no wizard. You're God itself, molding and shaping your very existence. I remember what I told you about that, because a lot of people running around in these streets talking about, I'm God. Really? You think that's a thing you want to say lightly? It means you've got to see the heart the way God does. You can't look at somebody and go, oh, there you go. You look at them and you see the heart. So if you say that you're God, they better not be idle words talking about you're God and you can be whatever and blah, blah, blah. No, that is not what it means. It means you see humanity from the heart. So much so that you will love them regardless, and you will see the best for them regardless of how vile you may think they are. That is what God does, because in the condemnation of another, you condemn your own self. How? Because you are the one with the condemnation within. As within, so without. But you know what? Let me get the daytime chime, because I'm not fitting to sit here, as they say, I'm not fitting to sit here and preach. I'm not. Oh, the chat is bumping. Let me read the chat. Aw. Yes, Commander, one love is the love of God. Indeed it is. So my beautiful friends, as I grabbed the chime this morning, let me tell you something. A little bit was a little confused last night. I went to bed early. I put him to bed early. And then I heard him wrestling at 11:47. I said, wait, you only make that noise when you... And he crowed. I said, child, you better stop. It's 11:47 p.m. It is nowhere near time for you to be singing in here. And he was singing at 11:47 p.m. How do I know? Because I was jarred out of my sleep. And I looked at the clock and I was like, what time it is? I couldn't have slept that long already. And he is singing. So now he's tired and trying to recover. But he did sing a little bit later this morning. Well, 4:30 something he was singing. But you may not hear him again this morning when we play the chime. But as you hear the chime this morning, comprehend the back end of existence. Comprehend what you are doing, which means to have a greater understanding of what you do. And it is from that place of comprehension, of understanding. I keep telling you, it is the light of understanding that sheds it banishes all the darkness. That light of understanding. When you know what you're doing and you know why you're doing it, you do it and you do it and you do it and you do it. But how do you do it? With pleasure. because you now know. You now know that you are no longer bound, that you've been set free. That is what you know now, that you have been set free. So now the next time you say, I am free, you don't just say it because you can. You know it, and that is why it comes out of your mouth. Let me get the chime. Countdown initiated. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you all for being here on this glorious Wednesday. Tonight, if you want to fall asleep with us, oh, you sure can. Join us at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and Fanbase. 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Fanbase, you hold on. You know we always close with you last because you know we like to chit-chat, right? While I get ready. I'm mostly ready. I just got to bring a little bit downstairs. But we'll hang out for that one. So Twitter, peace out. Twitter is closed. YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok, ow. I'll see you tonight.